Okay. Hey. Welcome. Let's see, which view are we on? Oh, these are backwards. Oh, well, whatever. Oh, shoot. Did this last time too. Drove me crazy. Let's see if we can make this smaller. Program out. Got it. Okay, cool. Perfect. Hello, we're going to start in just a couple minutes. Yes. It's just being here right now, but hopefully other people will join, and you can ask questions, hang out, do whatever we need to do. Yeah. So I'll just kind of start on some of my thinking last week. So last week I streamed about kind of starting to migrate my blog from eleventy to Astro and talked about some of the reasons that I was interested in doing that. I didn't have a super great experience with Astro when I tried it back in like the late fall, early December maybe of last year. And a lot of that was just kind of like the way that I was thinking about content in like from all of the things that I had from eleventy. And one of the things that was missing from that is these content collections. And so last week I was building up a blog and I was using all of the ways that you can build up a blog uh, as of the kind of like 1 point, I don't know, maybe it was 1.9. Actually, we can find out. So if we go to npm info astro versions, I think version maybe. Maybe I'm doing that wrong. 8.3.0, that doesn't seem right. I can never remember this command. Version. There we go. Versions will give us, okay, there we go. So yeah, 1.9.2 was the latest. And so that was what I was building my blog on. And, oh, sorry, I should have showed you that. So these are all the versions. 1.9.2 was the latest. That was what I was building my blog on. And after that stream, I had found this content collections thing. And so this is as of 2.0, and 2.0 went live as of npm info astro as of an hour ago. So all this stuff is in the, like if you do Astro create latest or whatever, all that stuff's in there now. So I ended up building a lot of stuff from this doc yesterday, but it's not totally inside of my muscle memory yet because it's all like brand new. I've only done it one time. So I figured today we could do some kind of like code along type thing. So if you're interested in Astro for your blog and want to use these new content collections, which are super cool, we could do that. So that's what we're going to do. It's going to be like fairly slow paced. We're going to go through this document kind of like piece by piece as much as we can. So if you want to code along, kind of do your own thing, make your own configurations, you'll have plenty of time to do that. So let's dive in. Hopefully all of the audio is working and video is working and nothing's a problem. If it is, let me know and I'll do my best to fix it. So, oh shoot. Okay. So, so that's it. Sorry for the notifications. Okay. So let's get into this. So what are we going to do? We're going to go through this document. This is the content collections document. Boom. Back to the screen. So we'll just kind of code along. Ask me if you have any questions. We'll just do this, have fun. Okay, so one of the cool things about content collections, I'm just going to read this. Okay, so content collections are the best way to to work with Markdown and MDX in an Astro project. Content collections are a feature of Astro that helps manage your content files in a project. Awesome so far. Collections help to organize your content, validate your front matter, and provide automatic TypeScript type safety for all of your content. Maybe I shouldn't have read it aloud because, I don't read super well on these things. But that's the whole idea is that this is a way for you to have, so let's look at it in a project. Okay, so basically the big thing that you gain here is that you have a new content directory that is special. And all of the folders that you create inside of it are going to be collections now. One of the cool things about this is that it's going to separate your content from the site itself. So you'll have a page that builds all of the content pages for you using get static paths and all that. But then the content is actually separate from that. Now that's actually a really nice thing. So when I was building my eleventy blog, there were a handful of like little things that I would do to keep like all of the pages were inside of the same directories as, or all the content was inside of the same directory as the like structure of the website. So there were these little kind of things that I would do to keep things separate, like keep the index page outside of the directory so that it didn't get all the automatic tags that I would apply and front matter that it was shared and all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of cool because it separates that into a dedicated content directory. So the structure there is that we're going to have a content directory, which is privileged inside of Astro. And then anything that any new directories are automatically going to be considered collections. So yeah, so we can do like a newsletter collection and a blog collection. And just by separating them inside of this content directory, everything, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Everything is nice. So so we have like newsletter and authors. This page has actually been updated significantly since I was here earlier this late last week. Okay, so let's just dive into this. So first things first, we need a new Astro app. So I want to make sure that the installation guide is still the same. I'm going to use npm create Astro latest, and hopefully that gets us a 2.0 app. Nope, that's the URL to this stream. There we go. Okay, so we need to install create Astro latest. That's a good sign. Yes, okay, cool. So we got 2.0 hitting hard right now. Okay, would you like to create a new project? Yes, and we'll just say, sure, I'll just accept the name. Let's go with a few best practices so we can, build this whole thing up from the ground up. Doop. Takes a little bit of time. I probably should have done this and then talked about what collections are. Taking a minute. Okay, cool. Would you like to install npm dependencies? Yes, we have to do it anyway. Why not? Here we go. So yeah, I'm curious if you're hanging out with me today, like are you following along? And then what are you gonna build? Let me know. Okay, would you like to initialize a new Git repository? Today, I don't really care. I have kind of my own site that I'm building with this kind of stuff, so I don't really need to do this. How would you like to set up TypeScript? Let's set it up with strict so we can actually see the benefit that we're getting from these type safe collections and the work they've done to make that happen. Good luck out there, astronaut. Cool. So we're going to go into this directory, the utter meteorite directory, run this command. I love copy and pasting this stuff just because it's so cool that they tell you how to do all this stuff. And then we're going to run this. Let's do a new split. Oops. Do a new split and put that in there. That didn't work. Should change this to localhost. Interesting. What did it tell me to do? Wonder why that didn't work. Okay, weird. Okay, so we have this. This is our basic Astro site with a bunch of just like basic like setup. So why don't I open this up? Oh, nope, open that over here. So we're gonna open this in VS Code. Now, so what do we have? So we have a fairly basic Astro site. We have our public directory with our favicon, our source directory with kind of components, layouts, and pages, just one of each of those, but it does provide that kind of Astro, like best practice type of folder structure for us. So we got that. And ready to go. So, you know, all the basic Astro stuff. So what we need to do now is add or let's go back to where we were. Let's start playing with collections. So what we need to do is just add a collections directory. It's going to be in the same level as these other top level concepts inside of Astro. We'll call this content. And, oh, that's a file. Always do that. I always do that. Move to trash. Okay, so actually let's make a new file and we're gonna call this content, and this will just be first.md, a very boring first post. We'll give it a title. This will be YAML, right? And then so we got literally anything in here. Save that. Man, my fingers are not warm right now. Very cold for this Southern Californian. Okay, so now we have a content directory with a file in it. Now I've done this wrong already because we need to put this inside of a collection. Right now it is not in a collection. So let's call this did it again. New folder. Posts. Okay, so we're gonna put this in a post. So now we have our post and we're putting it inside of a collection. So now it's in a collection. It's in the posts collection. Posts plural. I guess you can kind of decide if you want a plural or non-plural this thing. We have a post, first post. It is an MD file in our collections. It could be MDX if we wanted to. I don't want to muck with that right now. Okay, so what do we have? So Astro directory. Astro directory stores important metadata for collections in the .astro directory of your project. No action is needed on your part to maintain or update this directory. You're encouraged to ignore it entirely. Okay, so if we want to ignore it, we can actually open up our actually here. Let's kind of. Oh, I didn't do it. I didn't do a get repository. Okay, no problem. So there's no git ignore, but if we wanted to, we could add this to our git ignore. We could just, again, copy and paste. Love the copy and paste. Copy and paste this code into our git ignore, or just add .astro if you want to manually update it. Okay, so the .astro directory will be updated for you automatically anytime you run astro dev, astro build commands. You can run astro sync at any time to update the .astro directory manually. So maybe if you're making a bunch of changes, you don't want to restart your dev server, you can run astro sync. I guess we'll probably figure that out soon enough. Actually, let's try that now. So we have this right now. Okay, it updated automatically. I'm curious. Okay, so we have this. I just want to see something real quick. So we have entry map for our first post. So it's in the posts collection. That updated, I think, when we moved that into posts. So let's make a new file inside of posts. We'll call this second.md. Let's copy this, change this to second. Anything else? Okay, cool. So this is updating as we have our run script going. So pretty cool there. I'm kind of curious what happens if I pull this out now. So if I put that right into content, okay, so it pulls it out of our posts collection and it is not represented anywhere else. So it looks like there's no like root level collections, like unassigned collections. So there you go. So let's move this back into our post directory. We'll see that our types.d.ts directory updates, which is awesome. And then something that you might also be interested in is what is it, m.t.ts? I think d.ts. I think this file updates too, but we may need to actually restart our dev server for that to point. Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah. So then this just kind of gets, it adds the Astro types d.ts as well. I think that's mentioned somewhere in this documentation as well, but whatever. Two things that you need to know is that, the TypeScript, this is going to get updated automatically, but you might need to restart in order to get this type referencing in there, linked, whatever. Okay, so now we have two posts. We're seeing our types.d.ts entry map. So every time we add a post, it gets added to this posts collection, which is not an object. I don't know what the terms are. If you know, let me know. I'd be happy to learn from you. And you'll see that it comes with a handful of like metadata or fields, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a TypeScript expert. Fields for this. So we have an ID, a slug, body, which collections it is in, which is interesting. It's in a collection, but then this is also mirrored here, which is interesting. And then the data is going to be any. Now, I think this is our front matter. So let's play around with this a little bit and see what happens if we change this a little bit. So let's add a field for, I don't know, like published, set that to true and see what happens. Okay, so we didn't see any updates here. Did I restart my dev server? Yes, I did. Let's kill it, see if anything happens. Okay, nothing changed so far. Let me see what happens if we put it on both. Nothing happened so far. Okay, cool. Now, is there another, let's see, post somewhere around here? Okay, cool. So this is not, what is it? We're not seeing any type of like change to this type yet. And I think that is where we're gonna end up having to define our own. So let's continue through this tutorial. Okay, so organizing multiple collections. Okay, we understand this philosophically, so I don't really care about that right now. Organizing collections into subdirectories. Again, I see that as an advanced use case at this point, so I want to get just to how can we put these collections on a page. Okay, so define collections, source, content, config, ts. Okay, this is the next thing that we need to focus on. So there is a config.ts file that's optional. So if we don't want to, this is my understanding so far. If we don't want to validate the front matter for our posts to make sure that every post has the same front matter so that we can kind of create our sites knowing that certain data is going to be there, we can just leave this any and it's going to be fine. But we can add this config. Let's see. Nope, that's not. We got to do it in content. New file. Config.ts is what we're after. Now this is where we're going to use a library called Zod to, I think, describe our collection types in terms of the front matter, what we expect the various things to be. So let's see what we got. So import utilities from Astro content. And I don't know exactly how this works, but I think this Astro content links to our D types. Yeah. So we're defining Astro content. So this is going to be like a types import. Define your collections. So blog collection equals define collection. And then exports content collection, blog collection. Okay. So I'm going to copy this template. I'm going to start there. Again, love me some starting with copy paste and then changing stuff. So that's good. That's fine. We're going to change this to posts. Actually, I should have grabbed both of those. So, okay, we're going to change that to posts collection. Let's see. Define collections. Okay, so we have post collections. So what does this say? So export a single collections object to register your collections. This key should match your collections directory name in source content. Okay, that's fine. I wonder if this is always interesting to me. Like, is this a convention or is there like some magic that happens if we name it differently? Okay, to get most of the content collections in Astro, you may need to update your tsconfig.json to enable strict null checks. Okay, I think we're in strict mode anyway. This change is only required if you do not already have strict or strictest mode in TypeScript setting in your JSON. Okay, so we chose strict, but I'm just going to validate that. So TypeScript, no, tsconfig. tsconfig.ts. Nope. Oh my gosh. JSON. Blech. Okay. Strict. Yes. We have strict. Don't need to worry about this step. Let's see. Define collections in. Define a collection schema. Okay. So create your first content schema. Okay. So we already created that. Import your. Okay. We did that. This is so funny that this is a repeat of this. Why is this H3 just repeating what was in the body of the H1? I don't get it. Whatever. Okay, so let's see. So we're gonna import Z here. So we need to add Z. Not using it yet, so it's kind of lighted out. Collections. Okay, so define collections. We're going to add a schema here for our post collection. Okay, so post collection, we're creating a posts pots. That's not right. Actually, let's go with it because I want to test that theory of if the name is just convention or if there's some kind of magic. So pots collection, intentionally wrong there. We're going to do a title and we're going to use, let's see, published, which will be z.boolean. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So we have that. Let's take that off of this one. So we have one that's wrong, right? So we have a lot of things that are wrong right now. We're requiring this published field, which doesn't exist on this markdown file. And we have this posts collection incorrectly named. So a couple things not right, which we will see. We'll find some errors. I like finding errors and learning about stuff. Okay, so defining multiple collections, you can use define collection as many times as you want to create multiple schemas. All collections must be imported from inside the single collections object. Okay. Again, repeating. That's fine, I guess. Okay. So we have that. Okay, so multiple collections. Okay, using third-party collection schemas. Oh, gotcha. So this is helpful if you want someone else, like you're like, okay, like a blog schema should look like this. And so like you're using something defined elsewhere. Okay, no problem, fine. defining type with Zod. This is just a big example of a lot of the things that you can do with Zod to describe your types. There's this optional flag, which we'll likely use to say that it doesn't have to be defined. Let's see. So there's a transform that we can use for dates. I don't know if we'll need that, but it's kind of cool. Enums and cool. And then objects. Neat. Okay, cool. So we have that. Are we going to get to pages? Okay. Define custom slugs. Don't care because I don't even have a page yet. Querying collections. Clearly I would do the IA on this page, or the information architecture on this page significantly differently, but I suspect this is a reference document, not a guide, so it's fine. Okay, so querying collections. Okay, so we're going to use, so we have this new API called get collection and get entry by slug. Okay, so get collection is going to get all of the, so all blog posts, and then get entry by slug is going to search through a collection for something with the slug enterprise. Okay? Single blog post. Okay, got it. This is an interesting API. I don't know. I mean, whatever. You're gonna hear my opinions on a lot of things. So this is interesting because there's a little bit of like asymmetry here, which I find strange. And you know, I guess I'm trying to think like, so we have get collection, and I would kind of think like get entry by slug in collection. I know that's like totally verbose, but it would be more representative of this interface that we have, because you have to pass the collection. It's not just by slug, like you're also referencing the collection. So this asymmetry is a little bit weird to me in these two APIs. It doesn't matter, except for the fact that it's stuff that I think about. Okay, let's see. So get collection. So it takes an optional filter callback that allows you to filter your query based on the ID, slug, and data. Okay, so get collections. Okay, so this is interesting. So get collection. We're going to get the collection, but then also we have this option to filter out items that we don't want, which will come in handy because like an example of this is if we publish something, or if we have a published field. So we'll do this. So example of this, if we have a published field and we only want to, let's say we want to show all of those. So we're going to use our get static paths to create pages for all of the content no matter what, right? But we only want to show them in a listing page based on whether or not they're published or not. We could use this in both places differently to filter that out. So leave it open-ended on, or unfiltered on our get static paths, but then our listing page, we could filter it just for things that have a certain, match a certain criteria, which is kind of cool. So let's do that. Okay, filter arguments also support filtering by nested directories with collections. Since the ID includes the full nested path, you can filter. Okay, gotcha. This is interesting. So there's a starts with. Interesting. I don't know if that's a Astro thing or if that's a JavaScript thing. Maybe that got added and I didn't know about it. It'd be cool if it was a JavaScript thing. Do you have any questions so far? Like, curious if you're following along. Do you have any questions so far? Is my question. If you do, don't be shy. We will kind of cover everything. Okay, so what do we have? What do we have? What do we have? Okay, so using content in Astro templates. Finally, we're finally here. Okay, so we want to make a. Oh, things got weird on my side. Okay, so we're gonna make a listing page first, and then we'll build all the other pages. It looks like so. Let's copy this again. Copy and paste is our friend, and we're gonna make a new source file at page index Astro. So follow along with me. We'll do new file. Oh wait, no, we're gonna put this right inside of our index Astro right here. Cool, I like it. And actually, let's do this. Shoot, I still want that layout. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it in this layout. Oops. Fingers are so cold. No, definitely not like that. Okay, cool. So this works so far. So now we used a different, why does this hate me? Oh, I gotta put a title, I think. Title, a Chantastic blog. There we go. So that satisfies the children and title interface, and we're good. Okay, so we have reason our layout. We're gonna iterate over all of our blog posts. I did not name this blog, or I mean, I guess this is just a variable name, so it doesn't matter. Our collections, though, are posts. Okay, so the name posts, which does validate, so that's cool. So it's checking our types. It knows that we have posts, etc. So that is cool. Now, I am not sure if this is gonna break because in our TS config, I misnamed this to pots collection. So if it works, then the name doesn't matter. I suspect that it won't. If it doesn't work, the name might matter. Or it could be something else. So let's see. So this is going to be, so we're prefixing with my blog URL. So I assume that we're going to start putting these. I'm going to change this to posts just because that's what I would. Okay, so this is going to be posts. So I know I want to put stuff at posts. Then what do we have here? Okay, so this is obviously using something that I don't have, data that I don't have. So we're gonna comment this out. Sorry, I have an old school phone. You're just gonna have to deal with it, sorry. Let's see, can we do comments like this, block comments like this in Astro files? Not complaining yet. Okay, cool. Awesome. So we saw that just for a second. Okay, so we have so far. So we didn't do much, right? So we grab the blog posts or the posts. This name doesn't matter, but we use our await get collections posts. So we have access, or we have all of our posts now. And then we just iterate over those with list items and a bog standard href. And then we use our data title. Now, this is interesting because I think that we could use just the title, right? Because, oh no, it's ID, right? So we could use ID slug. Slug is going to be like, lowercase. It's going to lowercase and kebabify it. Actually, let's see exactly what happens. Our second post, let's rename this to second. Okay, so we use the kebab there. So what if we change this? Okay, interesting. So when we do it like that, the camel cased version, or Pascal cased, I guess, with a lowercase first, that's what the file name is. And then the ID is the same, but then the slug is like 2 lowered. Cool, good to know. Ooh, rename. Let's put it back to normal. Okay, so we have all this stuff. We're good on this. Now, let's see. So we have these. Now these links aren't going to go anywhere. That's fine. They work, right? So posts first, it's going to use that slug, right? Second, okay, cool. And then if we wanted to, like I was saying, we could use the other data directly. So like ID would use that, and then slug would use the slugified version. Okay, cool. Good. This is what we want, but we're using that title. Okay, now we're validating that title. So let's do some other stuff here. I want to add, let's do a strong tag and do blog post entry dot data dot published, right? Now published is a field that we have here, and we have in our TS config, and so we're allowed to use it here. And so far, even though that's not optional, we're seeing it work. So we're getting the validate. Like if I change this to something else, published, we should see some kind of error here. Maybe not. Oh, right, because we're still in any. Weird. Hold on a second. Let's restart this. Or actually, I didn't need to restart. I could use npm run sync. Does that change things? No? I feel like it should, right? Because this is no longer, so if we're describing that. Okay. So maybe this is where things get important. Let's change this to the right name. Oh. Oh, crazy. Okay, cool. So my assumption was incorrect. The name does matter. It's more than just convention. It is actually integrated into the system. So when we misname post collections to POTS collections, which I had before, we're still able to access the data, but any of the validation that we got from actually describing this schema for our posts it doesn't work. It's not connected. So once we change the name, now we get that validation. And so if we look at our types.d.ts, now we see infer entry schema for posts. And then let's see, is that, yeah. So now we have a post, basically. So where this was any, and we weren't getting any validation in our templates, now it is a post, and we are getting that validation. So I have published and that is incorrect. And so it says, well, we can't do that. So let's change this back. And so the template itself is cool. It's like chill. Like we know that we have a Boolean that in like on data here. However, let's see, but we saw this error pop in. So let's hold off on that a second. So if I try to call like toString on this, itString, well, that's not a method, so it's gonna argue in a different way, but let's say we call toString on this. I guess oh yeah, toString is a method on Boolean. What's not? Map is not one. So let's see what we get here. Property map does not exist on the type Boolean. Great, cool, perfect. So we know that it's a Boolean, so we can only call Boolean methods on it. So we're gonna save that. And actually it probably makes sense to call toString on this since we're rendering it as a string. Now, what happens next? Well, as soon as we got all our validation connected, look at this. Now we're seeing this error on our content, which is sick, super sick actually. So post second.md front matter does not match collection schema. Published is required. So let's see what this looks like on the page. So we also get this really cool overlay, which just also surfaces that same message. Super neat. So a couple ways that we can solve this. We can add published to false, which will, again, just get us through that error, right? Error goes away. Everything is copacetic now. Also cool to notice that we're seeing, even though we haven't navigated, or wait, I didn't navigate to those pages on this render. So yeah, it's still telling it. So it's telling us that there's some 404s at those routes. So good to know. Let's see. Okay. Now, another way that we can do this is if I take this off, that's going to bark at us again, but we can change our type to optional, right? Where was that? tsconfig. So the Boolean, we're going to call optional here. And that also gets us through. And it gives us, this is so cool. It gives us an error here that says, let's see, publish.data.published is possibly undefined. So let's see. And so here on our page, when we try to render that page now, because it can be, or because it is undefined, this toString call is actually failing to render the page. So this is really nice that we have all of these like validation possibilities. So here, then we can kind of write some kind of condition in our template. So let's see, blog post, blog post entry dot data dot published, and just wrap that there. So now it's optional. We get the errors that, we would, which it's optional, which will validate in our application, but now we need to handle those those possible cases for it being optional. So now that we've handled that, these pages will render as we expect, which is super cool. So now we get both of those because we're handling that optional case. We saw that being a problem because TypeScript was saying this can be optional now. You probably want to update your template. So really nice. All that stuff is super cool. So really, I mean, honestly, like if you don't like want anything else, like you just want to set up like content and like, blog, we're almost there. So let's take it the rest of the way. So passing content as props. I think this is the next thing that we need to do. Okay, so this is going to use, let's see, do we have this in our app? So we have components, we have card, blog card. Again, I don't really care about having blog cards at this point. I just want to get a page up. Render content to HTML. Okay, so getting routes from content. This is actually what I care about first, personally. So we're going to use get static paths in combination with get collections. So let's do this. So the file that we need to create is source pages posts slug.astro. Okay, good. Okay. So don't need components right now. We have enough content, differentiated content for now to get where we want to go today. New file. And so this is going to be in posts. So we set up a new route at posts and then use the slug.astro. Okay, so what does this look like? Got a handful of things going on. We'll go through this one by one. Okay, so import get collections from Astro. So that's the same function that we used before. Generate a new path for every collection entry. Okay, so get static paths. That is, you can click on the documentation for that if you care about it, but it's just going to generate pages for, or generate paths for all of these. And then we can kind of decide what each of those pages when it renders them looks like. So get blog entries. This is not blog, so we got a little error there. So we want posts. Error goes away. Cool, cool, cool. Return blog entries map entry params slug entry slug. Okay. So let's break this down. So each of these is going to be an object with our post data inside of it. So we have each entry. We're going to set up the params for that. And so the params are the URL part of this. So we'll use the slug and we can look at this, what this is going to be. So our first MD has a slug of first and our second MD has a slug of second. So that's what we're going to use to construct the URL part of this. Now, all of these are going to be inside of that post route. So these are going to be like subdirectories for sure. Hey, how's it going? Is it Lazar? I don't think I've ever said that out loud. So yes, Lazar, is that right? Let me know. I want to say it right. So, and then hopefully I'll be able to, get it forevermore. I can train myself when I, see on Twitter, Discord to say it right in my head instead of not knowing. Anyway, good to see you. Glad you're here. Okay, so this is a good question. So, see, is a content collections similar to content layer in Next.js? Actually, I don't honestly know. I haven't used the content layer in Next.js. I honestly did not know that was a thing. Would love a link if you don't mind throwing one of those in there. That would be sweet. And then also curious what version that came in at as well. So what do we have? Okay, so we got slugs now. So we have so this is going to set up that URL at posts, or our root posts, because we're in this post directory, and then the slug. So we have first and second are our only slugs right now. Now, that's going to set up the URL for all of these paths, right? But we also need to pass our content into the component, I guess. And so we're going to use props for that. So on props, we're going to send the whole object in as an entry. Got it so far? I know it's a little tricky. And then this kind of, this is interesting. This is something that it always kind of rattles my brain a little bit when trying to use this type of static site generator, is that this is an export. We're exporting an async function. So this is not going to run in the same time as this stuff that's outside of it. It's super weird for me to see those in the same kind of code block or code fence. I'm getting used to it, but it's a little bit, I'm gonna admit, it's a little bit weird for me. Okay, just because this is not how modules work, right? It is how modules work, right? You could have all of the code that's not inside of a function be executed globally, I guess, or whatever. And you can import just the global side effects of a module, which I don't know, maybe that's exactly what's happening here. But it is a little bit weird to just have yeah, it trips my brain out a little bit. So we have this, so now this part of it, everything else here is the stuff that is going to happen for the page that we're rendering. So this is that global effect of creating all of the pages. This is the local effect of we're making a page, what's the data that we need and what's the template that we're going to use. So that's what we have so far. So split those. Okay, so we're gonna take this entry off of props. Now remember, up here we put that entry on props. So we have an entry there. Um, and then this is a really interesting thing too. So like sorry, first things first. So we have that entry. We're going to use that data same way that we did before. So entry data title. Okay, we get the same validation, right? So if I try to use published here, we know that that's optional. So we should, looks like we don't. Interesting. That should be a problem. Wait, content type. So entry any. Why is entry any? Get collections. We know that we're getting posts. Okay, so maybe I need to validate that. Okay, so let's put this. Okay, we're gonna change that to a strong again. Oop, 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 oop. Man. Okay, change it to a strong. I want to see validation on this. So I think there's a step that actually I know that there's a step that we're missing to validate this. So let's we'll get to that in a second. Now there's a special API here. There's a component called content that we actually call on. So entry render is a function that we call, and we get content off of it. I wonder how quickly they go into content. Oh, interesting. Not at all, actually. Weird. Okay. That's surprising. I feel like earlier versions of this document did talk a little bit more about that. Let's see. So optional, render the entry to HTML in the template. Okay, so we're just taking it as said that this component does what it does. I don't see any documentation or links to documentation for it yet. So I don't know. This is all brand new, so it'll happen eventually. Okay, so now we should have routes at post slash whatever the slug is. So let's click that now. Okay, cool. So we have that. Great. And then we have this one. Awesome. Now it didn't complain about this, which is really interesting to me, and it's still rendered. So we're not worried. I guess because a Boolean, if it's falsy, we can still render it. So maybe the problem is that I need to try to call, let me try to call a method on it. No, still doesn't, but it should, that should break the page, right? Yeah, it will break the page. Okay, so what do we need to do to validate this? It doesn't look like it says here. Okay, wait. Yes, here we go. Okay, so this is the part that we need. So this is collection entry. So if you do this, you can use, let's see, so passing content as props. A component can also pass an entire content entry as a prop. If you do this, you can use collection entry utility, the collection entry utility, to correctly type your component's props using TypeScript. This utility takes string argument and matches the name of the collection schema and will inherit all of the properties from the collection's schema. Okay, cool. And this does have a link to documentation where you can learn a lot more about this. And actually, I wonder if content is on here. Do we have, oh man, this pops up when I'm trying to search for stuff and it's really frustrating. Collections type, entry slug. I don't see the content component documented here. I wonder if we can find it. Doesn't seem like it. Okay, is what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna copy paste this. We're gonna have to change this a little bit. So let's change this. We're also gonna collection entry, take that, and then we're defining an interface Props, we're going to change this to posts. Change our collection entry to posts. And then where do we put, oh yeah, so this is just for the component, I guess. I don't fully understand this. Where do we actually put that in? So post will match the blog collection schema. Okay, so this, again, this is super odd to me, but this is in like this part of the life cycle, I guess. Okay, so we save that. Now, unfortunately, I'm still not seeing the error, so I don't totally know. What's going, oh, because this needs to be entry, right? No, yeah, entry. There we go. Okay, it's just naming problems. Okay, so we have, now that we're validating entry, we'll get the error that we wanted. Okay, cool. Super, super handy. Okay, so now we just need to decide how we want to do this. So I mentioned earlier kind of my ideal for how this should work. So we're gonna kind of play, oh shoot, okay, so here's some of the, so rendering content as HTML. Once queued, you can render collection entry to HTML using the entry render function property. Calling this function gives you access to rendered content and metadata, including both a content component and a list of rendered headings. Okay, cool. Very cool. No further documentation on that. So is what it is. I guess we could log it if we really wanted to know everything. Okay, so we got that. No problem. Okay, so I wanted to change our listing. So I want to render out every page that we have content for, meaning that I want to be able to visit all of these URLs for content no matter what. Let's delete that because I don't really care about it on the page, but I do care about it as data for the listing. Okay, so this one has data that says that to publish. This one does not. I'd like to only have this only have the published things on our published posts on our listing page. So we can go back a little bit to this filtering section where we can filter this. Now they have an example of drafts. I kind of went the other direction. So we'll sort that out. Okay, so get collection. We're going to filter this using a filter function. We're going to take data, whatever you want to call it. And let's see, if published, change this to equals. So published is true. So we're only going to collect the blog post with the front matter data of published true. That didn't seem to work. Data published true. I'm curious why. Okay, so let's try this. So let's say title first. None of those. Oh, because I titled it Hello World. What does that look like in our types? Oh, there is no title. So let's see. So let's change this to ID is first.md. That's not on data though. Frick. Data title first. Hey, awesome! Thanks for being here. And did I get the name right? Is it Lazar? I've not heard it out loud, so let me know. But it is nice hanging with you. Thanks for stopping by. Glad you're here again. And yeah, let me know if you end up doing something with the content collections. Let me know. I'd love to see it. Love to see what you're doing. Okay, so data title first. Um, okay, so there's something I'm not doing right here. So we're gonna get the data. Lazar. Okay, Lazar. Longer A sound. Lucky. I like Lucky. That's sweet. Okay, cool. Good to know. Good to know. Um, cool. Have a good one. Good one. Cool. So data. Okay, so we have the data. We have the title. Why is it not working? What's some other data that we could? Okay, published. Okay, that is our optional property. We know that that's that. So it should be data published true. We have a Boolean. We're comparing it the right way, right? Because if we change this to, foo, it's going to say like, you can't, it's never going to be that. So we're getting the right field and we're using the right comparison. Why is it not working? Awesome. Yeah, take care. Okay, why is it not working? Okay, oh, it is working. Bad reload, I guess. Okay, so in this case, we're filtering it on the listing page, so we can access it from the listing page, but posts second is still there. Now this is actually, I'm a big fan of this personally, so we're gonna talk about this for a second. I'm a big fan of this idea of having your posts, even in a draft form, live at the URL, and then just kind of deciding how much you want to expose them. So this is kind of like the way I like to think about modules too, right? So you have a function, you have all your functions in your module, and then you kind of decide at which point you need to export them in order to kind of upgrade them to public availability. This is kind of a similar thing. And we can actually set this up a similar way, like if we had an RSS feed, we could set that up so that the RSS feed only has the listings, but then maybe our sitemap has all of them. Now, the cool thing about this is that, or something I like about this, is you can then share these URLs without having to depend on some type of like branch deployment service doing it for you. So I know a lot of times setting up a blog, people will kind of create a branch for their thing, their blog post, do a preview deploy, share that with friends, say, hey, does this sound like me? Does it sound right? Is there anything that I forgot? Anything that I should add or reconsider? And it lives on this branch. But that's very much a feature of like, Netlify and Vercel, and like it's not something that you can easily like take with you. And so I really like, just kind of not having to think about all that kind of stuff, just continuing to kind of put all that stuff on main, and just deciding when it gets exposed more public, like when it gets exposed kind of via a public outlet like a listing page or your sitemap, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, that's neither here nor there, but we do have control over that. We can kind of decide where we're going to put some of this stuff. Okay. How are we doing? We're actually doing pretty good so far. So we have that. So speaking of RSS and sitemaps, maybe that's one of the next things that we do here. So I think that we've kind of covered everything that you really need to know. We could add a date. Yeah, why don't we add a date? Let's add this date time back in. We'll add it back starting at the template level, which will give us errors that we need to consider. So entry data published. Okay, so we have this error and we can look at it. It says property published date does not exist on type. Gives us the type, and if we go to, nope, not that one, posts, or we can go to our index, our first post, we'll also get an error there because we don't have a date. So let us now go into our config.ts where we'll look at our post collection definition and add a date. And so I think there's a date here which we can use. Now we're gonna have this as be required. This will be required. So save that, and we should let's see. Oh no, wait. We want this to be published date, right? Yeah, published date. Okay, that makes the errors go away, right? Because now in this template, we know that we have to have a date for this content to validate, right? So we can assume that date is going to be there. It's going to be the type of date, and we can always call to ISO string on it. So that's cool. Template's all fixed, right? And then I'm going to leave it off of the listing page. Doesn't matter. You can put it on there if you want. But we're definitely going to have it on our post page. So post, what do we get? So post first.md front matter does not match the collection schema. So publish date is required. No problem. So this is now cascading through our content where we can update the post. So so we're going to change this to published date is 23/01/24. That's today. Okay. Now we get, it looks like the error didn't go away, but it's now talking about the second.md file. So change this to second.md, paste that in there, save. Cool. Now we have it. Now, does our date show up? Yes. Now the date, this is something I noticed when I was kind of playing around with this. The date is not right. So we said the 24th, and I think because we're not applying a time here, it's doing some weird stuff with kind of that like date time crossover. So I don't, this is something that I'm like actively interested in trying to figure out. And if you have a solution for this, let me know. I know eleventy has a default solution for this. They have already baked it in. And so I would like to know what is the key to making this work, because I don't want to have all of the post dates here different than the actual post dates. I also don't want to have to put in like full strings of the time that like the exact time that I published the thing. Maybe that's the only solution. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Okay, so we can go to second, and that is also there with the same wrong date. Cool. Okay, cool. So we have that. We have all those pieces. First, our thing. We saw that it was validating our... Where am I? Okay. Okay, so we saw that our schemas that we defined in Zod are kind of going with Zod, are kind of validating all of our content, which is super cool. So I guess the question is, what does it look like now? Or my next question is, what would it look like? I'm going to switch these. Localhost 3000, and then this. So now I want to look at what an Astro RSS would be. So Astro RSS, pull this over a little bit. So Astro RSS docs, we have the NPM page right here. Let me make sure that there is a 2.0 version that 2.0 is the latest. Yeah, latest is 2.1. But it was published 7 days ago, so we might need this. Actually, That's confusing. No, last published 2 hours ago. I'm not sure what this. Oh, download stats. Reading helps a lot. So last published 2 hours ago. So that seems like the right timeline since it was an hour when we started the stream. So let's add this in. Okay, so npm install Astro at Astro.js RSS. Let's do that here. Nope. Okay, cool. So we've installed that package. Let's look at our package JSON. Yep, got it. Okay, so what's this gonna look like now? Cool. So start by adding a site to your project Astro config for link generation. Then create an RSS XML JS in source pages and use get collection to generate a feed. Okay, so I'm gonna make that new file, pages, new file. Was it rss.xml.js? And grab this. We'll take a look at that in a second. Okay, so RSS, we're going to use the get collection API, which we've been using up to this point, using Astro content, async function, get context. Okay. Oh, context is like site context, which is defined in the Astro config. Yeah, so we can put things like, was it context site? So if we want to, so here we can do site is going to be ps:/chan.dev, which you'll probably want to change based on your environment. I don't think we'll have time to get into environment variables today, but maybe, maybe. Okay, so we have this. So chan.dev. Okay, so that is going to be this part of it here. So that's when it talks about context, it's referring to this define config file. That is what is going to provide the context that we use for context site. So now that we have that defined, that's great. Save this so far. So again, we just go with this stupid name. Chantastic blog. Stuff from my head. Okay, now this, we're going to change this URL to posts because that's where all of our posts live. We got the collection, so items, posts. Okay, so we need to change this to posts. Now we should have the posts because we're getting collection, posts. Take each post, we're going to spread out all of the data here and run, yeah, and say the link is post.slug and give it that additional URL. Okay, save that. We'll npm run dev again. Okay, watching source content for changes, types generated. Okay, cool. Our site should still work. And let's see. So we'll go to, what is it? rss.xml. Is that where we put it? Okay, invalid or missing option type. Invalid input. Okay, so this is not our code. Okay, so let's see what we have. Yeah, let's see what we got. So we have that. I wonder if we can console log this from here and where it will show up. Say, so we're going to console log posts. Okay, so RSS XML logs out all of our stuff. Okay. Invalid or missing options. Okay, so I copy pasted this, so there shouldn't be any invalid or missing options. Okay. Let's see. Let's also print out our context dot site. Make sure that that is valid, that we're getting that correctly. Oh, interesting. Okay, so maybe that's what it is. So context site is breaking all of this down. So we're sending in an object when we probably want to say origin. That's new. That's different. Oops. That's not what we care about. That dot origin. Okay. Let's see if that fixes it. No, it does not. Okay. What do we have? So we're logging out the origin. So we have the origin now. Items post dot data. So we're excluding the render function. We're just doing title, publish date. Okay, let's look at what this might require. Maybe this is where we're having problems. Okay, so we're going to spread out all the post data. And if we're looking at that correctly, we have, in our data, we have a title and a published date, okay? What do we need here? So we have a title, which is going to be a string, our link, which we have included defined here. So maybe we need to change this to pub date is data.published date, right? I think that's right. Let's not spread this out at all. So we'll say title post.data.title, post.data.title. Okay, what else do we need? Description. Oh, okay, cool. Look, that worked. Now we don't have a description, we don't have context. Okay, so what it was tweaked about is this different API. So we have pub date versus published date. So if you want, you could maybe universalize those in your schema so that it's pub date instead of published date, so you don't have to map it. Is an option. But yeah, so let's see. So now we have our RSS feed. Okay, so now what I said though was that when I have this RSS feed, I want to filter these posts in the same way that I'm filtering my index. So I'm going to grab this for now. We could clearly modularize this request if we want to, so that we're not copy and pasting stuff. But right now, I'm just going to get it done. Okay, so published is true. Cool. And that post goes away. Easy peasy. This is amazing. This is super nice. So now this link to this goes away. Now let's actually validate that. So I'm going to open up a local RSS feed reader, and we're going to add a new feed, a new web feed for localhost RSS XML. Obviously, I'd already kind of played with this a little bit, but we can kind of see the new one and see what it picks up. So it picks up Chantastic blog, great. So it's getting that from the feed data. It has this post, hello world, and it has the time and everything, the wrong time. So we have that. Now, what do we do about content? That is a big question in my mind, because this isn't an Astro file, we can't do that same like render trick, but I want to include the content. So how do we do that? So first we need to know the field for that content. What does the items look like? Items content. So we'll have a content string. And then let's see what happens. Okay, so now we have content encoded some content. Okay, perfect. Now, what does this mean? And it changed our type here, which is interesting. So if I refresh this, we have, there we go, some content. Perfect. Now I want to get that content from the site. So how do we do that? Does it tell us how to do this? So they have an RSS schema. So if we wanted to use the RSS schema that is defined by this RSS feed thingy, then we can use that in the way that we saw earlier in like defining collections and whatnot. Yeah, here. RSS schema, and we can do RSS schema extend and extend it with the various properties. So I think maybe we could even use this to map pub date to publish date. I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, and then there's another option where we can use a glob if we wanted to get more pages that aren't inside of our content directory. Okay, so let's look at this. So markdown. Okay, so they don't talk about that in here at all. Content. The content key contains the full content of HTML. This allows you to make your entire post content available in RSS feed. Whenever you're using HTML content, we suggest you package like sanitize HTML in order to make sure that your content is properly sanitized, escaped, and encoded. So now the question that I have is, okay, so we're logging out this, or logging out our post. Where is content, right? So we have published date, we have published true, okay, but we don't actually have content. So how do we do that? So let's see, Astro, RSS, content, markdown. How are we going to do that? RSS, Astro docs. Okay, so we have this, have the package. We installed a lot of that stuff. We ran through this. Items, item, description, custom data. Okay, so this is a little bit more in depth than the README on the other thing. We can do the schema. We can extend, use glob imports. We've read through all that. Okay, include full post data. So it says the same thing. We want to sanitize this, etc. Okay, sanitize. Okay, so we can still call that. So sanitize. So parser.render post by. Okay, got it. Okay, so we're gonna add this first. So we're gonna add these imports to our thing, our RSS file. It looks like markdown it may already be pre-bundled, maybe. If we go to node modules, run down to markdown table, no, interesting. Fascinating. Curious how that's working. So we're gonna add markdown it and sanitize HTML. So kill that. Okay. So we'll install this dev sanitize HTML and markdown it. Copy. We will npm install dev markdown it. Looks like it's mapping, but I'm not sure why. So I'm going to install it anyway, so we have like a clear dependency line for that. And then npm run dev again. Okay, so we shouldn't have any problems here. That should all be fine. Yes, reloaded just to double check. And now we want to take our content and we want to do this to it. So content, let me close this. Okay, so content runs through this sanitize function after we run parser. So we're setting up a new markdown in it, parser.render of post.body. Now we're not actually seeing this in the data here, which is, oh, we are, yeah. Okay, cool. So was that there before? Man, I missed it. That's the body. Okay, so we could have just passed that through, but that's fine. Because it was plain text, but had we had markdown, we would want to treat that differently. So let's save that. Let's run this again. Okay, cool. So now we have our content. If we go to our RSS feed reader, hit refresh, now we'll have literally anything. So if we go to our first.md markdown file now, we should be able to add a second heading and a list of things, and let's mark this one for highlighting and do a code block. JS let 42 equal, nope, 42 equal the meaning, that's not right, of everything 42, meaning of life and everything. Okay, refresh that. And yes, okay, cool. So we have our second heading, which is bigger and bolder than our regular text. We have a little code block here, which, I mean, it's an RSS feed. We could add some stylings if we want to, but this is the default styling. And then we have our list. So super cool. Okay, so we got all that stuff working through our RSS feed and content using the post body, which was totally invisible to me. I did not see it before. So here, yeah, so body right there. So we're actually doing pretty freaking good so far. Now I want to see, last I checked, so when I played with this earlier last week or late last week, there was not really a way to, oh, having bitrate problems. I apologize if it's kind of causing you issues and you can't hear me or see me very well. Let me know though. Okay, so we got that. Now, sitemap. There is a sitemap plugin. So we go to Astro sitemap, but it didn't seem up to date, and I couldn't get it to work at that point. So I want to see if maybe, possibly, it's up to date for 2.0 now. Okay, so let's go to versions, version. Last published 5 months ago. Okay, so no sitemap support as of yet. So I think the way that I was kind of thinking about this is that because there's not the sitemap plugin that you can use, you'd probably have to make just basically build a page on your own, kind of using your own templates to create that sitemap page as of right now. A little bit of a bummer. So I don't know if that's kind of like on the roadmap. I know that Astro's doing an event in like 30 minutes, I think. Twitter.com, astro.build. Nope, bullet. Astro.build. Let's see. Yeah, there's an event at 2 today. Yeah, so if you want to check that out, you can set a reminder. They're gonna be talking about all that kind of stuff. I unfortunately have a meeting during that time, so is what it is. But yeah, so maybe they'll talk about sitemaps there. If they do, let me know. Oh shoot, I did all that with just my face. Yeah, anyway, astro.build, it's right here. Cassidy Williams, yes, fave. Okay, so that is that. Now, what are some other things that me we want to do? Me we want. Me we want. This might actually be good. This is, I think, let's see. Is there anything else I want to do? No, I think it's good. We have done everything that we need to do to make this site work. Actually, I did say that we were maybe going to make a local dev environment. So why don't we try that out? Okay. So let's do Astro dev. No, Astro local. No. Astro. What are we looking for? Astro env variables. Okay, so now let me show you what the problem is first. Okay, so if we have this post, it's coming from our RSS feed. However, everything is prefixed with chan.dev. So these are like the production versions of this thing. I want this feed to represent locally that it is local so that I can kind of, I don't know, do stuff like, let's see, how do I visit this post? Open in browser. So if I open in the browser, it's going to say not found because that doesn't exist on chan.dev. So, but if I go to the same URL at localhost 3000, oh, nope. Should be, oh, did I kill, no. Is that still running? Localhost, HTTPS, that's the problem. HTTP localhost 3000. Well, I have that post right here. So I like to be able to play with those things locally. So I need to set a kind of conditional environment variable here. So what does that look like? That is what we're going to try to solve. So using environment variables, Astro docs. Okay, so ultimately, a lot of this stuff like defaults to Vite, right? So whatever the option for Vite is, that's going to work. We don't want to use the base URL because that's actually, I think, like if you have all your site nested inside of a like subdirectory path. So we want to set up an env file, and actually, I don't think we even need to do that. Let's look at what conditions we have. Okay, cool. Yeah. So we have import meta env prod. So true if site is running in production, false otherwise. Okay. And we have import meta env dev, true if your site is running in development, false otherwise. Always the opposite of prod. Okay. So, and then we have a specific mode if we want if we wanted to, we could define development otherwise. So this is development when running. Okay. I want to just capture this and make the easiest thing possible. So if this is dev, we're going to use HTTP localhost 3000. I mean, this is very like, you probably want to pull this out into some kind of config or whatnot, but for right now, this totally works for me. So now, because we'll see how this works, but because we're using this to define our XML file, what is it? Remember, we were getting this off of context here, and then using context site origin. Now we'll have to figure out if the origin thing still works or if we need to do something else. But let's restart this. Okay, and now if I refresh this, yes, cool. So now all of these URLs are updated. So if I go into NetNewsWire and hit refresh, this is going to duplicate this because they're new URLs now. But if I open this new one and say open in a browser, now it's going to go to my local environment, which is pretty neat. It's super weird that it says chan.dev here. Oh, that's the profile I'm in. Got it. Okay, so that's my chan.dev profile. Okay, cool. Um, okay, let me think that through. Okay, so we I want to think through the things that we covered, and then maybe we'll just kind of wrap it up right here. Okay, so we covered how to basically, no, back to code, back to code, back to code. Let's open VS Code and just kind of like re-go through some of the things that we did. So we have, okay, so we added a content directory. Inside of it, we created a new collection, which is named by the directory. So this is a posts collection, and we have 2 posts inside of that collection. Now, what Astro does for us is that it then creates types for those, and we can access those through Astro by importing Astro content. And then it creates this map for all of our collections. So we have a post collection with all of our stuff that has like all this like default data by default. I should have seen body there. I don't know how I missed that earlier. Now, by default, the data type, so any front matter that we have is going to be an implicit any. But we can create in content this config.ts file where we define post collections and say the schema for, so we define a collection, post collection, define the schema for that as having a title, publish date, published, and kind of we use Zod to describe what those things are and if they're required or not. Okay, just full on review mode at this point. Now we did determine that this is important, so it really does matter that this, you know, or at least this part of it, right? This is just a local variable. It can be called whatever we want, but this part of it, posts, so kind of collections, putting that post will actually empower all of the places across your site. So we go into index.astro to know what type of data this is, so that we can get squiggly line errors any place where we're misusing data or we don't, you know, so calling wrong method on it or that data doesn't exist in those files. Now, we're also going to get really cool content warnings. So if we go first and let's say we take the date off, now when Astro goes to render our page, it knows that it needs to have a date in order for the site to render properly, and will tell us, hey, this post doesn't actually adhere to your site's requirements, and so you gotta add the data that you gotta add in order for it to work. Super cool. This is really nice, really nice, honestly. And then this actually works. Like we're not even requiring publish date on the index page. And which is what we're rendering here. So we don't even have to render the page that needs that in order to get this error, which is sick. Super into it. Okay, what else? Now, what does that mean here? So, and then, yes, okay, so that's the post. We use the get collection API to grab that. And then we do have this filter function available to us where we can, in this case of this listing, I only want to render posts that have the published true value on them. Okay, and then I'm also doing that in my RSS feed, which we'll get back to. So hold that thought. So in posts, we have, we're using get static paths to dynamically create pages for all of our content that we use from get collections. Now, remember, this is all living inside of this content directory and is filterable in this get collections thing. So what's happening here? We are using this method that's been around in Astro for forever. Well, first we're importing get collections and collection entry, which helps us define that type. The font's small. Yes, sorry. There we go. My bad. Sorry. I stream on a different screen dimension, and I guess I totally forgot to do that. My apologies. Okay, so that should be better. Okay, so we're importing get collection and collection entry. Okay, so now we're exporting this function that's going to run, that's going to kind of like run the rest of this for every page. So that's kind of a mind trip for me still. But we're going to use get collections to get all of the collections, assign them to this variable. We're going to map over this. And for every entry that we have, so in our content posts, we have first and second. For every entry, we're going to create a page that uses the entry slug. And if we go back to our types, we can see the types for each of these is, so first.md has a slug of first and second.md has a slug of second. Now the slugs are going to be like automatically named using some kind of function. I don't know what it uses under the hood, but they can be renamed so that they can be URLs. So if you camel case stuff, it's going to lower it. And if you, I don't think you could use spaces, but if you, for some reason, had spaces in there, it'll do like %20, all that kind of stuff. Yes, so, where was I? I'm on the wrong page. Astro slug. Okay, cool. So it's going to use that slug to create pages. And then for each of those pages, it's going to pass this entry in as props. Now, we're pulling off collection entry so that we can define the interface for this. Now, what this does is it means that, again, we can call these methods knowing that they're available. So if I change this to map, it's going to say, well, I can't call map on a date. So it's going to tell, we'll know, like, as we're authoring our page, what methods we can call, which ones we can't. And that's all thanks to this. Now we can take this off. We don't have to do this if we don't want to, but we won't get the type safety there of knowing exactly what those types are and what methods we can call on them. Now the cool thing is that we also get like completion on this, right? So if I start typing to, well, then I can complete with to ISO string and just like that. But that's not what I want. Or if I wanted to, date to date string. Okay, so now those are doing the same thing. So we get all that because we know what the type is for that. And we use collection entry posts in order to get that. Okay, so for each page, we're going to call astro.props to get the entry for that page. And then all of our front matter data, so we were using the slug, these are kind of like root level pieces of data that Astro sets up. So ID, slug, body, collection. Data is all of our front matter. And so, yeah, so we have our front, what is it? So on props, this data field is going to be our front matter stuff that we define. So that's going to be data.title, data published, all that kind of stuff. Now we have this special function or the special component that we get by calling, by awaiting our call to entry.render. And then that's going to return both the content, and then there's also a headings object in there. So if you wanted to do like a list, I guess, or sometimes actually something I've seen a lot in blog posts recently is that they'll have kind of like a TLDR type section that has just the top points. And so if you construct your article in such a way that you could pull those out and have those be the just the high level points, you could just use headings to render that out as well. And that comes out as a component as well. So we just use this content component, and then that's going to be all of our markdown processed content. Okay. So I think I've screwed up first. Yeah. So change that. We have our site, the markdown process content. My understanding is that it uses markdown features. So we didn't get into this at all, but we were kind of running short on time and I just want to summarize everything. Markdown features are supported by, what is the, it's not Markdown it, it's, come on. What's one of the other ones? Just so you know how to like kind of like set up the plugins and what. Remark, there we go. So it's using Remark. It has a certain number of things that are already kind of set up inside of it, but you can add more Remark plugins in the Astro config MJS file or TS or whatever you're using. So that can all happen there. Yes. Okay, cool. So if we wanted to add some additional things, like, so for me, I kind of heavily customize Markdown. So I'll use like, I'll have a thing for definition lists. I'll have some extra plugins for using YouTube videos and things like that. So I would need to add those, which we didn't get to today, which is fine. Let's see. So after that, after we got all that stuff set up, we have all our pages, our listing page, etc. We installed a package for Astro JS RSS, which made it easy for us to define an XML file. Now, if you don't want to include the content, which seems a little bit weird to me, but if you don't want to include the content, you don't need these dependencies. If you want to export the content in your feed, like we're seeing with this, so right here, so like like this, and you want to process the Markdown process, you're going to need Markdown it or similar, and sanitize HTML. Markdown it is really nice and kind of simple. But it does mean that you have two Markdown processors. You have like Remark and Markdown it. So I don't know if there's an easy way to share config between two of those. That would be a kind of point of research for me, but something to consider. Now, once you have those installed, you can use you can just create a rss.xml.js file. And here we're going to import our RSS function, I guess. And that is basically a function that we're going to call, and we're just going to feed it data, like feed it this big object of stuff, and it's going to properly format our RSS function. So it saves us the step of creating our own RSS template, but we still have to get all of the stuff and put it in the right places. So we're going to use our get collection again for collection types. These we're going to use to format our Markdown. And then we just do this. So export async function, get context. And this context relates to this Astro config MJS file that has our URL. Now here I'm using kind of sidestep this a little bit. I'm using import meta env dev, and this allows me to kind of switch on, if this is my dev environment, I want to use the localhost 3000, test things locally, and then if it's production, I want to use chan.dev, which is my site's URL. Okay. Okay, cool. So there. So yeah. So that context is used to define this site field, which we'll see in a second gets spit out in all the RSS stuff. So title, description. Oh, and the documentation shows that you can use context.site. This was not my experience. It chokes up on the object now that it spits out an object. So I had to use origin to do this. Your mileage may vary. And then we're going to spit out all the items. So we have all these items that we're going to use. We're going to, what are we doing here? So we got our collections. We filtered it by date published, which we're doing for a listing page. So only the ones that have that published flag will show up in this listing. And then for each of those posts, so items, we're going to make an array. That's the type that we need to make. Posts.map. Take each of our posts. We're going to pass a title. Pub date. Now, if you've been following the instructions on the Astro site, you're going to need to map this value. So a problem that we had was we were spreading out the post data as an object here, but we use the instructions show you to use published date, which is not recognized here. So we have to map that to pub date. And then here I'm doing this twice, and then content, which is an optional field. You don't have to include it, but I don't know why you would create a blog feed that didn't have it. We're going to use this sanitize HTML to make sure that it is all like sanitized and ready to go, and then process our markdown using the post body field. Now, again, data is stuff that we define in our front matter. Body is one of those things that the content collections kind of like creates for us. To reiterate, we can see that in, Astro right here. We go to our content. Again, ID, slug, body, and collection. Those are the things that's going to give data is ours for our front matter. Okay, and the last thing is just a link. And so we have posts, and then we're using post.slug. Again, this is defined by Astro. Whew, okay, all that kind of stuff. And so then ultimately that results in our feed, which exists at rss.xml. And you'll notice that this, we apply a .js there. That's just so we can write it as a JavaScript file, but it gets turned into a proper rss.xml feed. And all this stuff is kind of provided from our, this feed is created from this big giant object that we made. And you can see the title, link, GUID, and then the content, the encoded content. So yeah, and then again, NetNewsWire, this is a preview of what that would look like. Okay, so that's let's see. Okay. That's that. So it's a lot of stuff. And then one last thing that we didn't cover is that there's not sitemaps. So you are gonna, if you want a sitemap, you'll have to create your own template for that. There is not an easy way to do it. The plugin does not seem to is not 2.0 compatible yet. So you'll either have to wait, or in the interim, create your own sitemap file. Just something to know. So anyway, that's it. If you've followed along, thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that maybe you learned something or are considering using Astro for your next blog. If you learned something that I should know as I do that for my blog, I would love to hear about it. The best place to reach me, I'm Chantastic on Twitter, but even better than that, we have a Discord community of some really awesome people that kind of code content creator type folks, and yeah, that's it. Discord.gg/lunchdev. Really cool group of folks over there. How does this work? Discord.gg/lunchdev. Yeah, that's it. If you found this helpful, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, whatever, or don't. Doesn't matter. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Lazar, thank you. Good to see you again. Or back, or not having left, or whatever. Again, Astro is doing this in 9 minutes now. Is going to be doing a just talking about all the Astro 2.0 stuff. So super cool. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me today. Appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye.